This is referee Dan Perch, and come celebrate pro wrestling right here on the Sit Down Marks podcast.
That's the difference between you and me. You talk about it, I do it.
Sit down, Marks.
Let me talk to you. Acknowledge me.
What's happening? What's happening, my people? Come on in, sit down. We got the boys here. We're ready to go. Episode number 189 of the Sit Down Marks podcast. Today, we're going to be talking best commentary teams out of all the mainstream wrestling we watch each and every week. We want to see which ones we think are the best team, the ones that, they're most cohesive, the ones that, work the best together and, deliver the product the best. We're going to be talking about that. We got a little AEW on the docket today. Before we get going here, let's bring the boys in. Let's do a little switcherooski here. Let's start with the front row sitter, the green hat guy. He's got one of the best shirts I've ever seen him wear on the podcast today. He's ready, man, because he's a Tony Schiavone guy. Welcome to the podcast. Dylan, what's going on, brother?
Oh, man, you're throwing me off. I get to go first. I don't know what to do. Do I talk with my I don't know. I forget how to talk. We're fired up for back-to-back weeks here, boys. 2 episodes in 2 weeks. Gotta love it. A lot to talk about.
Yeah, giving the people what they want, 2 flagships weeks in a row. So, and the guy been with me since flagship number 1 all the way on the East Coast. Well, shit. He's back, my man. Primo, what's going on, brother?
Well, shit. We're over here vibing and oh, that's not me. We're hanging out, doing our thing, man, over here on the East Coast, chilling, ready for episode 189. Let's get it.
Backwards man. I feel like I should start with the go home then, and we'll go backwards today. Good stuff, man. Thank you, everybody, for watching right now. SitDownMarks.com and everybody listening
thanks,
on all
Connor,
those
for
podcast
stopping by
platforms
too.
out there. Yeah, thanks for jumping in, hanging out with us today. Good to see you, Connor. Appreciate everybody coming in the chat today, man. Let's get this thing going, man. Hot start time, man. Let's talk five topics in the world of pro wrestling. Let's get it, Primo. Well, we got a little pay-per-view this weekend, boys. AEW Double or Nothing, man. The big one on the docket everybody's talking about is MJF going to lose his hair or not. I don't think he does. I think he's going to win the title this weekend. One of the ones that I'm really excited for, that one. I've been waiting for this run back of Okada to Keshta. That's another big one, man. I'm excited on this one. Will Ospreay, Samoa Joe? You know what I mean? Like this one's, I'm always interested in a Samoa Joe match, but, throw Will in there too. Will with this new rejuvenated thing he's doing with Mox, man. So a lot of good storylines here, but those are probably the top 3 that I'm looking at, man. Y'all are seeing the card right now on Facebook and YouTube, man. What are you thinking, boys? Primo, any matches you're excited for?
Oh, yeah, definitely the main event, the Darby MJF match. I agree with you. I don't see MJF losing his hair. I think that they have really done great, like we mentioned last week, with Darby Allin's weekly title defenses. It's been really exciting, but I don't think MJF gets his hair shaved here. Also, I agree with the Okada Takeshita match. That's going to be really fun to watch. I think maybe Takeshita takes it here. And the Will Ospreay, this more like they said last week on Dynamite, more technical side that he's showing since hanging out with Death Riders against Samoa Joe. That's going to be pretty awesome too. And what about that I Quit match with ENC? Cope and Christian versus FTR.
How's it going to work? Anybody can say I quit either member?
I don't remember ever watching a tag team I Quit match. I could be wrong.
85 in the cage with Tully and Magnum.
What about what about Usos and no? I was gonna say
they did
Usos.
Hell in a Cell.
They did Hell in a Cell. You're right.
Yeah, Usos New Day. I knew where you were going. Yeah, that that teamwork here. You know, I knew where
Correct.
you were going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you guys took the top three, and then threw a number 4 on top of it. I will also shout out that Swerve Bandito match. Bandito is on just an incredible run.
Mhm.
That's going to be sick. The big down there in the corner, 14-man, whatever they're calling it,
Yeah.
Stadium Stampede
Yeah.
is just going to be wild.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're only looking at 8 matches announced so far. So we still probably have another like 25 to go before Saturday
sure.
or Sunday.
Yeah. This
Yeah,
thing's
like-
got to go 4 hours, bro.
Yeah. Like,
by itself.
yeah. Tomorrow is like a 3-hour Dynamite. And then we're going to go to this, you know, 5-hour long pay-per-view. But at least, you know, the holiday on some Monday. So I don't have to be up.
Thank
You can stay up and watch the
goodness.
pay-per-view.
Guilt-free,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So the starting Owen Hart tournament, these are opening round matchups.
Yeah.
Strickland's been on social media saying, I don't know why I'm not on TV, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, so this will be interested here with Bandito. And I want to say about the Stadium Stampede too, like all of them have been a complete mess, but like I was one of those train wrecks, man. Like I can't help but watch how the madness ensues here. But only thing I was going to ask you guys too about the I Quit match. So let's just say let's just say Dax says it or Cope says it, right? You know what I mean? Does that like start like a split between the two or something? You know what I mean? Like
FTR?
Yeah.
Or either team, you mean? Well,
Either team, really.
Because if
yeah.
Cope and Christian lose, they split anyway.
Right.
Oh, that's right. That's stipulation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I kind of forgot about that. So, well, that makes it a little more makes sense now to me. So,
Well, you know, what'd be funny is if Cope and Christian use Big Stoke as a leveraging tactic to try to make them quit, and they don't give a fuck, and they don't say it.
right.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Watch Willow and Alex Winza. Watch that be good. You know what I mean?
I think it'll be good.
Yeah.
The same with the women's 4-way. Like, I wouldn't name it over Osprey or Joe or Taket. My goodness, guys, Okada, Takeshita, all these names. But that, you know, all 4 of those women can go, and they're all like that strong style kind of stuff. Like that match is going to be good. It's just not one of the 4 or 5 I'm looking most forward to, but it's all going to be good.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't even notice like until you pointed it out that there's only 8 matches. Like I'm intrigued to see if they add more. You know.
Well, there's no. I'm kind of looking over it real quick. Make sure I'm not wrong. No Mox or Death Riders on there, so
right.
They'll have something pop up.
I mean,
no
Osprey's Death
Orange
Rider,
Roddy Kyle. Like there's there'll be some random 6-man that goes on right between the main event or right before the main event that we're all like, this pay-per-view is already 5 hours long. Why are we throwing on the trios?
Wheeler in the 0 hour.
Yeah.
And it's too soon for debuts, right? From anybody that got cut, right?
As far as I know.
Contractual stuff I haven't picked up on or anything like that. So
if they were like actual releases, I believe so.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the situation is with the New Day, if that was like a release or how they phrased that, but
right.
Yeah, I believe we're too early on that.
Right. Yeah, because I think only if your contract expires are you eligible.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that makes sense. All right. Moving on, boys. Topic number 2, man. Nashville's in the headlines a lot right now. We're going to talk about Nashville. They got the Super Bowl in 2030 at a brand new arena, but Rusev and Gangrel have come together to open up what they call the Keck Pro Wrestling Academy. It's going to be a school in Nashville, Tennessee. And I saw some pictures. It looks like maybe J-Rod is going to be helping out there too. But you know, a pretty good. Like I didn't know, you know, outside of the Mortons, you know, anybody that maybe had a school in Tennessee. So this kind of gives one in Tennessee. Like I would love to see the goal be like one in just about every state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you know here, but pretty cool. They're opening up one here, and looks like it's like Gangrel. I think maybe he was like a West Coast guy, but he was working down on the East Coast in Florida, and he's going to be up in Nashville a lot. But pretty cool.
Yeah,
I mean, that'd be attractive to go to.
Anybody that thinks that's a random duo, it's actually not. Gangrel was trained, or excuse me, Rusev was trained by Gangrel and Rikishi. So
that sounds, Rusev and Gangrel sounds like a team from like a WrestleMania weekend show that starts at like midnight. It's like, Rusev and Gangrel versus, Little Guido and Perry Saturn or something. Like, Black Label, like some just random pairing. That'd be cool. They need something in Nashville. I know there's a couple indies kind of down there, but that'd be a nice little space, nice little learning spot for him there in Nashville.
Yeah, pretty central too. So I'm always intrigued, like when somebody opens up a new spot like that, what it looks like on the inside, like how many rings they got in there. You know what I mean? Like, does it look like a performance center? Kind of like, but that'd be pretty cool, man. I'm excited to see what kind of talent they can turn out there.
Yeah.
Topic number 3, boys. I want to circle back to it because, and when I talked about you guys with text, over the weekend, I went back and I binge watched the Hulk Hogan documentary on Netflix, and going into it, I had just as much negative thoughts as anybody else. I'm like, this documentary is like gonna it's gonna tell us a lot of stuff I already know, and it did, but I was actually pretty intrigued by how it came across. Hogan talking a lot. They talked to Bret Hart. They talked to a lot of guys on both spectrums that understood, like, Hogan was the goose, and we all made money because he money. And then, then they had the people like Bret Hart that just, hate him and, that kind of stuff. But watching this now, man, like going back to, I highly recommend it really to all wrestling fans, because I feel like it gives a perspective from a little bit of everything, because it goes through Hogan's early era. It goes through, when he, got in trouble, marital problems, and then he, then the, stuff that he said, that really got everybody like turned against him, and that kind of stuff. But it really does efficiently go through his career from beginning to end. Yeah, even in TNA, and the timelines. Like sometimes I didn't feel like I didn't put those timelines together. But, it's like, him, knowing like what kind of situation he was in, and then here comes this opportunity and that opportunity, what I mean, and that kind of stuff. And plus too, going back, like me and my wife, like like one of the first shows we watched together that I got her to watch about wrestling was Hogan Knows Best, that reality show. And like going back and seeing some of the backstory and stuff of that, that kind of stuff. But it was it's pretty wild, what I'm saying. But have you guys, I know you guys had watched it, I don't know if you guys had finished it yet or not, but that end part, man, like when the wrestlers are all talking, and like, like that part, like, was very real to me, and felt very real, felt very like, it just kind of got me a little bit, what I mean? Like they all were appreciative but still apprehensive about him, what I mean? Like it was just, but it was a really good documentary, I thought.
I agree. So I mean, obviously I've been critical in the past, but
sure.
I definitely went into watching this with an open mind. Minus being annoyed with all the commercials on Netflix. But beyond that, no, I watched this with an open mind, and I really did have a good time watching it. You're right about the Hogan Knows Best. That took me back. I remember it being live on TV.
Yeah.
All the stuff with, Brooke being on both TNA and on Raw and stuff like that, and then his career in the early days, and it's just crazy how they just put all that. Obviously we've seen a lot of it, but I feel like it was kind of like a a little raw. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially because they didn't stop other wrestlers from shitting on him.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like at the end, where he's like, at the end, because, spoiler alert, but like, so when they're brushing Hogan's hair or they're doing makeup, like they show a lot of those things when Hogan's talking, like outside the camera interview and stuff, and so he's doing kind of like some of those, and so it just kind of makes it seem like a little real outside the box. At the end of it, he's like, okay, well, is that it? We're done. He's like, yeah. I think we'll have to come back here in about a month, and put some things together. But he's like, all right, cool. Like he looked relieved that the documentary was over. And then what did they say? It was like a couple weeks later he died.
It was a couple weeks, couple months, but it wasn't that long.
It was pretty close. Yeah. But, I hadn't seen Nick and Hogan in a long time either. He's on there.
Yeah, I thought it was weird watching Hogan walk around with a cane.
Oh.
Yeah. I was just like, damn.
Yeah.
They talked about, who was it? Was it maybe Jesse Ventura or somebody was talking about how when you end up making your finisher the leg drop, you're going to mess up your back and everything else.
Right. He's like, I should have done the sleeper. And I'm like, yeah,
right.
But, like, I don't know. Would we have gotten over as much with the sleeper? Like Johnny Weaver already did that years
Can you
before
imagine
that,
WrestleMania 3, instead of Hogan slamming him and dropping the leg, it's Hogan trying to put Andre in a sleeper. I haven't gotten to it yet. I might have to knock that out over the long weekend. My mom, of all people, was putting it over. It said she'd watched a couple episodes. It was really good.
Sure.
And then just, our group chat, both of you putting it over. So it's definitely one I want to check out. Just haven't quite had the time yet.
Yeah.
I still hadn't seen that Shawn Michaels one that you talked about.
It's good. Yeah. That one's good.
I'll get that one too. I haven't got that one yet either, but all right, topic number 4, boys. Kind of a 2-part question. I want to ask you guys. So now looking back at it, and I've had time to think and I have time to watch and read. It kind of feels like Asuka was a budget cut. It seems like maybe she was one of the people that was offered and maybe decided to walk away or at least like take a break for a while. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and it kind of like made sense in a way. Also, too, the second part, I want to get this out there. I was years old when I found out Io Sky and Evil was a pair. Like, I did not know that. Like,
same.
Usually I find those. I pick up on them somewhere. I see, well, I didn't know that. They got married, so congratulations to them. But Evil's got a new name. I can't remember what it is, but
I don't either, but yeah.
Yeah, but you think she was maybe one of the people that was offered or asked to, because it seemed very quickly, like Asuka's such beloved by us that kind of like she was done. We should have got a retirement match out of her, like or a run or something like.
Well, thing is, I don't think the TKO sees it that way. They probably thinking they only think in numbers. They don't think in that type of thing. But except for that kind of negates what I was just about to say was another rumor, or I guess you could say speculation that I had heard was that she actually got released when Kyrie got released, but they were just letting her finish up that match.
Yeah.
Well, Kyrie was going to be my point. Like, we don't usually, it's usually just cut point blank, no matter what the storyline is or anything like that. So if that is the case, at least they let her and Io have that match instead of just completely cutting that story at the knees and what's been, the last 6-8 months of it being told. But it would make sense, honestly, because as much as we all hold Asuka in such high regard, ever since she lost to Charlotte, right, her first WrestleMania, she really hasn't been like the focal point of the division. It's always been like a side piece or, part of, what's that, Damage Control, I think, Bailey's group, like doing, different stuff, still being used, but never like, hey, we're making this all about Asuka. So, 10, 11 years later, like for him to be like, okay, we're going to cut your pay or you can walk away. Like, I'd believe that wholeheartedly. But at least we got that last match. Everybody, as much as we'd like it, everybody can't have the big send off. Hey, this is their last match.
Yeah, that's a good
Let's
point.
give them all the flowers. Every show would turn into somebody's last match show if we did that.
Right.
But yeah, if that's the case, I'm glad she's not just retired. Like, that gives me hope she might pop up somewhere else, even if it's Japan. But yeah, that'd be cool.
Sure. Dreamwave would be cool too. So
that was get ready, Brittany.
Yeah, right. All right, topic number 5, man. Let's circle back to the front row sitter here for this topic, Dylan. We talked about it last week. You always talk about what shows you're going to, your Indy 3 preview and that kind of stuff. We end up seeing 2 pretty cool GCW shows that were in St. Louis area and also in Iowa, man. Yeah, so just talk about both shows, what you saw, that was, pretty awesome. I know Manders was pretty beat up and he come out of there with some staples in his head and stuff like that, But yeah, just talk about those 2 shows, man. Look pretty awesome.
Yeah, 2 really fun shows. A whole lot of driving. That's why I'm struggling on words and stuff tonight. I'm still getting over it. But yeah, St. Louis area, just on the other side of the river to avoid the wonderful Missouri Athletic Commission. Yeah. Saturday night, big deathmatch type show. DB, I think you would have hated it, to be completely honest.
Sure.
But
I saw clips.
So like the coolest part, one of the coolest parts Saturday was a surprise match. They ended up doing Bang & Matthews versus Slade and a mystery partner, and the mystery partner turned out to be a surprise Bear Bronson. So that was sick. You had Bear and Slade versus Bang & Matthews, and those 2 styles shouldn't mesh, but they really did. Bang & Matthews, they got their ass beat this weekend, but they absolutely killed it. Got to see Tremont a couple of times with that whole entrance of, Journey, feel all that atmosphere. Anakin Murphy got a big win on Saturday. They're in St. Louis over John Wayne Murdoch. To be completely honest, I don't think the crowd expected Anakin to win, but he pulled it out, and I got a huge reaction there. And then, yeah, like DB said, Saturday made the track up to Des Moines, Iowa. Not as much of a death match show. It was GCW, so you still had some tables and chairs and whatnot. But yeah, Manders, the Iowa boy in the main event, challenging for the title, came up a little short, but man, got a massive reaction. I think everybody in the building was there to see Manders. The Black and Brave, I am blanking on his name right now, but not Seth Rollins. Merrick Brave. Merrick Brave was there, kind of cornering him, which was really cool. And then, yeah, Bang & Matthews again going up against Tremont and Bear on that Sunday show was sick. We had Unsigned and Don't Care, Gary and Anakin going up against not Fuego anymore, KJ Orso and Sam Stackhouse. That was really fun. Yeah, both shows, especially, it's weird coming from a big deathmatch show on Saturday with all the glass, the tubes, the panes of glass, the super hardcore stuff, and then the next day toning it down. It kind of brings everybody down. But Primo, I'm just gonna be completely honest. I've never been in a crowd of people that love to chant grab his dick and twist it as much as the Iowa people did. For whatever reason, every match, it was constantly hey, and it was okay, guys, come on, we get it. It's, whatever. But
hey,
yeah,
that's a fantastic chant for that particular event.
I mean, to each his own, but I was guys, come on, every match,
yeah.
Can we cheer for a wrestler or something
in the ring all of a sudden?
Yeah. But yeah, I got to see our boy Troy from Dreamwave DB. Troy was at the Iowa show. Got to talk to him, and Saturday. Get my days confused. Saw good old King Nate and a bunch of people there on Saturday. So really good weekend overall. Got some Kansas City barbecue. That made it worth it. Yeah, just great weekend.
Sure, yeah, always worth it, man. Get a little barbecue, a little food. I'll always love. That's what I always liked about wrestling. When I go, certain towns and stuff, and
Missouri known for ribs.
Spot.
I always do pulled pork, but I think ribs are the main.
Yeah,
I'm just a sucker for pulled pork. I'll get it anywhere.
Hell yeah, it's good shit, man. That's awesome, man. Yeah, but you got to see 2 pretty awesome. Yeah, so I saw clips and stuff, and I was just like, well, dang, these matchups were sick. Now, you know, yeah, they were busting light tubes and stuff, and you know, and I'm like, holy hell, you know. But
yeah, the Saturday show, one of the matches, Joey Janela and Lil Sicko, they did the Shane Helms vertebraker, or like you drop a guy basically straight down on your neck.
Yeah.
They did that on the apron, and then got in the ring, and Joey did a running tombstone on a chair, and the guy still kicked out. And I just about got up and left. I was like, you know, all the glass and stuff is fine, but we're kicking out of this. Like, that's not even the finish. Really, guys. But yeah, so like that was more offensive to me personally as a fan than the constant tubes or glass panes or, you know, anything like that. But
yeah,
that's where I was like, really, what are we doing? But yeah, still a really fun night.
The old grab his titty and twist it, grab his dick and twist it, all that crowd, huh? Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, at least there are a few far between over. All right, boys, it's time to move on. Before we do, it's time for the city shout out of the week. Just like old school there. Well, here we go, boys. This week's city shout out goes to Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon's been in the top 50 cities of the downloads for the sit down marks since the beginning. You know, they loved us in the beginning, you know, and then, you know, they didn't for a little while, you know, but now they're back, baby. You know, a lot of people are listening over in Portland. So go Trailblazers. I know they're not in the playoffs, but I looked up, it said that Portland, Oregon, you know, despite what we, you know about Portland, Oregon already, it has become one of the micro brewery and big wine scenes around the United States. Like a lot of people, like I read, a lot of people go and train how to be beer makers up in Portland, Oregon. But hey, I tell you what, man, I'm a big fan of the Pacific Northwest. Seattle, up in that area, is one of my favorite cities. Actually, I've never been to Portland, Oregon yet, but
I want to go. Yeah,
I know Roddy Piper spent a lot of time there. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Shout out Portland.
Thank you, Portland.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Let's move on, boys. It's time for the Dropkick discussion. But before we do, let's hear from former tag team member of Zero Gravity, CJ Esparza.
Yo, this is the most dope CJ Esparza coming to you live with Primo, DB, and AJ on the Sit Down Marks podcast.
All right, so we decided to talk a little best commentary teams here on the Dropkick discussion this week. Thanks everybody for watching on YouTube and Facebook, and everybody listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music. Man, thank you guys for downloading us there too as well. We appreciate it. So commentary teams, right? Like that, you know, sometimes, you know, a pair gets put together and they're there forever, right? You know what I mean? You think like, you know, King and JR, and you know what I mean? And
Dylan and Primo,
right? You know what I mean? They're just put together forever, right? And then, you know, sometimes things are mixed up, you know, and there's some moving pieces, you know, kind of like what Raw has done with, you know, say Corey Graves and Pat McAfee and stuff for a while. And then, you know, Wade Barrett trying to find him a spot, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So, you know, so mainstream wrestling, we took, let's see, you know, about 7 or 8 promotions, and we're going to talk about each commentary team, you know, how we, you know, think they do well, you know, that kind of stuff. And we're going to decide today who we think, you know, individually is the best commentary team. So let's start with WWE, man, like right off the top here. So let's start with Raw. It is Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett now, which in the beginning, Joe Tessitore, you know, I was like, oh man, I don't, you know, boxing guy, you know,
college football.
Yeah. Seems like he didn't really know the product. You know, but you know, since then I think, you know, just like anything else, you know, just a little bit of time, he kind of, you know, wavers on you. Now, like I feel like I listen to more of Wade, you know, talk, because he's more knowledgeable of the product, and maybe that's just in my brain, you know, thinking, you know, all right, he's a former wrestler, you know what I mean? So, you know, and Joe kind of, you know, comes in with other things, but you know, But Wade and Joe Tessitore as Raw commentary teams. Primo, what do you think about this one?
Oh, I actually love this pairing. Joe Tess and Wade. First of all, I've always loved Wade Barrett, Bad News Barrett, and but on the commentary team, he's one of my favorite people to listen to. But Joe Tess, I agree with you. Since as time has gone on, he's only gotten better. Of course, I am familiar with him from listening to him on Saturdays, watching football. So it's kind of during last college football season, it was kind of weird seeing him on Monday night and then Saturday. So no, but I actually like this pairing a lot, and I don't really have any complaints over it because they riff off each other pretty well, and Wade still does that. He always does that good job of being like the disgusted Brit,
Yes.
So I love that.
Yep. Yeah. And he always bags with the heels a lot.
Yeah.
My favorite part about Joe Tess is how straight he plays everything. We know him as he is my favorite college football play-by-play guy. He's out there killing it with Jesse and Katie on Saturdays doing the SEC, and it's all big official. And then he comes to WWE and he's just complete straight face talking about how Danhausen is 7 foot tall and 800 pounds, like the tail of the tape says, and playing it completely straight. The whole gingerbread guy, every goofy, just to be flat out, stupid, to be honest, thing WWE does that we love. He's not sitting there like some of the sports guy we've seen in the past, rolling his eyes this wrestling thing over here. No, he's just completely straight. Yeah, of course Danhausen is 8 foot tall. That's what the tail of the tape says. That's right here on the screen. What are you talking about? Here's a crazy one. I love it. Great team.
Stay here with you, Dylan. SmackDown. Michael Cole and Corey Graves. Probably with WWE, they're my favorite iteration. I'm a Corey Graves fan when it comes to commentary. But how do you feel?
Yeah, Graves fits in with anybody, and they have gave him 87 different partners, and he's worked with all of them.
Good point.
And Cole. I think the one thing we got most right about Vince leaving is how great Michael Cole is after Vince isn't in his ear. It's like night and day when you compare him with Vince to without. It's seems like he's just having fun. Every show, he's cracking jokes and ragging on some of the wrestlers, but not in a way that takes away from the product. Just like a guy out there actually having fun. Yeah, especially in WWE, you might be right, DB. They might be my favorite in WWE. In WWE, they mix it up a lot. For pay-per-views, they'll have different pairings and stuff. And I think they all gel pretty well. But Cole and Graves is a hard team to beat.
Primo, how you feel about them? And then start us off on Vic Joseph and Booker T.
Yeah, so Cole and Graves. Number one, Cole. There's not a whole lot to say. He's been around forever. At this point, he's a legend at the commentary table. But,
yeah,
for sure.
But Graves, I've listened to him when he was, he first had to stop wrestling when he was in NXT. Then when he was on Raw and now on SmackDown, he's kind of, even when he got bumped back down to NXT for a while there. He's always seems like he's all in when he's there on the commentary table. And that's another thing about him that I like, especially you just know because backstory, so he has a history with a lot of these people, with all these wrestlers. Let go way back to the indies and stuff, you know what I mean? But also he's where Wade does that good job of being the disgusted Brit.
Yeah.
Corey is really good at being a skeptic, and also ragging on Cole. So that's good for me too.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of this pairing as well. I really like them. As far as NXT goes, Booker T and Vic Joseph. Vic Joseph brings that more polished side of the commentary table. Proper. Yeah, you're right. And of course, you got Booker T. He's the former wrestler. He's got the charisma. He's got the ad libs, all the stuff, the shucky ducky quack quack.
Yeah.
He was the one with Darren to whoop that trick when he'd be like, yeah, in between the whoop that tricks. So
yeah, man.
Absolutely. Or whenever Stephanie Vicaire would do the devil's kiss,
For sure.
They are a very entertaining duo. Definitely. I actually right now I think WWE has found a good pairing on each show, and Booker T and Vic Joseph, they obviously are. I won't say down there in NXT, but they do a great job, and they put over all the guys in front of them and gals.
I think everybody in WWE is where they should be right now. I don't think they move any parts. I think they stay with these three, main groups. But you watch NXT, don't you, Dylan? How do you feel about Vic and Booker?
Yeah. So I love Vic. Honestly, half the time I love Booker, and the other half he gets on my nerves. Like it just maybe it's whatever mood I'm in when I'm watching it. But you can't deny, like Primo said, there's several talents he has helped get over just by his shtick, I guess you'd call it. I don't know what else to really say. Even Joe Hendry, like right before he left NXT, Booker finally started singing Joe Hendry's song after putting it down for so many months, and kind of gave it new life. Vic, he has killed it on Raw and SmackDown in the past when they were shuffling constantly a couple years back. But yeah, I really got to just echo what you guys say. I like him as a team. Maybe one day Vic gets another chance at Raw or SmackDown, but for now he's killing it in NXT, and I'm happy for him.
Let's switch it up. TNA, man. Matt Raywalt and Tom Hannafin. I tell you what I like about these guys immediately. They sound different than anybody else. You know what I mean? I like Matt's knowledge. He's the dictionary. He's the encyclopedia. He's the Google that comes up with, lots of facts and, stuff like that. And Tom, we've seen him, a couple of different things before, you know what I mean? I feel like for TNA's product, I feel like they work, for them. Tom in a roundabout way kind of reminds me of Vic Joseph. Vic Joseph reminds me of Tom a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all feel me there. You know what I mean? So I get them. I don't know that, they're gonna be the top three, you know what I mean? But I think they do well. And I think that sometimes I feel like, I don't know if it's energy or if it's like lack to grasp a big moment or, whatever, but like, I don't feel like I ever go, oh, that was a nice call by Raywalt there. That was sweet. But you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? That's, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't feel like I feel that, but how you feel, Primo?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of echo a lot of the same things you said about that they're good. As far as for TNA, they're very. I definitely do think that they are. They are serious about their role as commentators for TNA, the TNA product. Like they're doing their absolute best. Which I mean, I look back, to like Tenay or anybody else back in the day. But I agree with you. When you're watching a TNA match now, it almost seems like they're just having like a casual conversation over the match.
Yeah. Almost like background music, but with knowledge.
Yeah, I really like them. I think they're perfect for TNA. Like you guys said, Vic and Booker are perfect for NXT. I think they are perfect for TNA. I think Vic and Tom came up in the WWE system together, because there was a time I had trouble telling their voices apart, to touch on that point, DB. And to touch on your point about no big calls, just to be blunt, I think that comes from TNA having a lack of moments. You can't call something that's not there.
Fantastic argument, for sure.
You can't call something that's not there. But I think Rainwall got his start on 205 Live, if I remember right. I was surprised at how well he did, because we knew him as a wrestler, in Rusev Day and all of that. But how quickly and smoothly he transitioned to a commentary, I love it. They have a great they play off each other well and play off the TNA roster very well. And yeah, I think they don't try to be, to your point, Primo, they don't try to be Mike Tenay and Don West. You can't replicate Don West's energy. So yeah, they do a really good job in the role they're at, and they going back to last week where I got a limit put on my favorites. They might be one of my favorite commentary teams.
And sometimes too, and I don't know if this is just but sometimes when I'm watching TNA every now and again, like I'll hear Matt talk and I'm hearing Stryker. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean, or Hannafin, like, or maybe it's like, you know, together I'm like, they got a 3-man.
Oh,
no,
wow.
it's just them two. You know what I mean? So
it's kind of clicking now that you
right,
said that. I'm like,
right. Oh, you know what I mean? Like,
okay.
yeah, like you'll be sitting in your living room next time and like just watching the match, not super tuned into what they're saying, and like you know, you come back like, is that Matt Stryker? You know, but yeah. All right, next one. So I'll probably watch more of these than you guys do, but I want to talk NWA. So Joe Galley, Tim Storm, and Danny Deals. It's kind of like their three, you know, that, you know, and, you know, they call the action in the ring. You got Tim, who's I don't know, like he's a former wrestler, or, you know, he just, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? But like, I don't know if this is for him, you know what I mean? But it looks like maybe trying to find something to do. But he works for, like, you know, being kind of like when they brought Mongo on, is what I remember, you know. Like, he didn't know a whole lot about anything, but he could say, you know, I'll punch that guy in the mouth. You know what I'm saying? You know, he can stand there and kind of do it. So that's like how I'm kind of like relating. I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? And Danny Deals is like, you know, he's the loud, you know, like do the, you know, that kind of stuff. And like I said, like they're tailored for that product. You know, I don't feel like they're out there doing too much. There's a lot more script there, I think, with NWA. I don't think they're doing too much freestyle stuff. But any thoughts on NWA at all?
You know, I haven't watched it in so long, I can't comment on the trio.
Sure.
But Galley was doing the play-by-play when I was watching, when they first started, what was it, NWA Power, I think it was, on YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah.
Like pre-COVID. I thought he did a really good job. You know, he wasn't, I wouldn't put him as one of my favorites.
Sure, yeah.
But I thought he did a really good job for what they had. I can't speak to the other guys, but Tim Storm was like their guy for a minute. So, yeah, I'm sure they're trying to keep around somewhere. But, yeah, I like Joe.
All right, let's move to AEW. So let's start with we're going to talk, I guess, the main roster and then ROH too. So the two staples, Excalibur and Tony Schiavone. The other one has, you know, rotated out between a little bit of Taz, a little bit of JR, a little bit of Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
You know, I guess, you know, JR, you know, he's not there as much now. So I guess Taz is, you know, now like, you know, the three, you know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dylan. You want to start off with them?
Yeah. Those, you know, that's typically their dynamite trio. Taz that I guess been dealing with injury, I think it was. So, you know, Brian been filling in a lot for him.
Mm-hmm.
I love that trio. Both trios with Taz or with DB or BD. Yeah, Brian Danielson. Yeah,
we have initials
there. Yeah, well, he used to be DB. Now he's BD.
That's true.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I like their energy. I just love that Tony Schiavone is back.
Me too.
You know, him and Nigel on Saturdays, they kill it. Like, that's my childhood, man. I love Tony Schiavone. I blocked the guy on Twitter recently because he was in my mentions dogging Tony Schiavone. And like, I don't know who you are. Like, no, shut up. You're out of here.
Yeah, screw that guy.
Yeah, Excalibur. They give Excalibur so much. Yeah, Primo's burner. I blocked Primo on Twitter. They give Excalibur so much to say because, you know, the Young Bucks will be having a match and they got to give Excalibur like 5 matches to read off for the Saturday show. And he just knocks them out one after the other. Like, I don't know how he gets enough oxygen to do all of that.
Sure.
But yeah, either set. I love Brian on commentary. I love Taz on commentary. Like, they have their similarities and their differences. But I love them both.
What's cool is Taz has been in AEW, TNA, and WWE as commentator. And when I think back as a teen, I think of like Taz Michael Cole on SmackDown.
Yeah.
So and then later on Taz on Taz and TNA. But anyway, as far as AEW goes, obviously Tony is a freaking legend. I don't know how the dude is so old and has better footwear than me, but he's constantly doing in-ring interviews with Jordans on, or something. and then of course, him and Excalibur obviously are like the A-team pair, and then you have the rotation. When Bryan Danielson's in there, I feel like you definitely get more of the that technical side of things,
Yeah.
And then Taz is just Taz has his own style, and he always has. But I don't mind either trio.
So, man, with AEW, like I think Excalibur's great, man. That dude knows his shit. Like he's perfect. He can talk, and I love that I don't ever really never know what he looks like for real. But so I love that it's 2026, and I have a set of DVDs I'm watching from 1986 in this World Championship Wrestling, and I watched one just the other night, and Tony Schiavone is interviewing Ric Flair, and he's talking and whatever. And the fact that 1986 and Tony Schiavone, and then 2026 on Dynamite is Tony Schiavone.
Yeah,
that's just a thing of beauty, man. That's my childhood. That's a voice that got me to fall in love with wrestling. So so I think AEW has done really well with getting Tony Schiavone to be a part of it.
My favorite part, real quick, DB, is like when one of the luchadors or maybe one of the Japanese guys, like they hit some move, and Excalibur will call it by. Let's just say a luchador. He'll call it by, the lucha name.
Yeah.
And Schiavone and Taz or, whoever's on commentary will be like, how the heck do you know that? Like, you made that up. There's no way that's called that. No, you don't know what you're talking about.
You'll be like, it's the reverse backslide. Go to the Tatani.
Yeah.
So, I'm like, what?
They're like, you made that up.
Yeah.
He calls everything. Excalibur, instead of the superplex, everything is the avalanche, and then the pen is lateral press and all that. And I do like all that,
dude. I know, right? And I love that I'm listening to a guy that's teaching me that. You know what I mean? It's awesome. Ring of Honor, man, a guy that I really like, Ian Riccaboni. Like he just has a wrestling voice, feels like, you know what I mean? Caprice Coleman, I think, has done very well in kind of sliding, into that role. I love when, Nigel McGuinness can be on there sometimes too. I think they're kind of sneakily doing, a pretty good job down there. You watch a decent amount of ROH. How you feel about those guys, Dylan?
I don't watch a whole lot, but what I love about them is they remind me of like pre-AEW Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
They both did a bunch of commentary then. Yeah. So like as different as the product is now, that part is that, familiar voices that we're used to hearing. Ian, he's like next man up for them. I think as soon as either Tony calls it a day, like Ian would be in that spot, I feel like.
Yeah.
And Caprice is another one that guy can just talk. I didn't know how good he'd do on color, but they move him in there and he knows his stuff and he's entertaining. And if nothing else, he's entertaining, and that counts for something.
Yeah. All right, boys, let's circle back now. So Primo, let's start with you, man. If you had to pick two commentary teams, you're starting a wrestling business, you got the choice of any of these groups. Which two are you gonna pick for your product?
I'm gonna go the AEW squad and the SmackDown squad.
Okay. Dylan, where you at?
I think I got to give one of the spots to the Schiavone, Excalibur. I'll go the Taz trio for one of my spots, and then the other, I'm probably going to go Cole and Graves.
Yeah,
but that's tough.
So we're in agreement then.
Yes, you're in agreement.
Yeah. What about you, DB?
Yeah, I'm gonna make it a three-way because like I can't pick against Schiavone. Like I feel like they're you know what I mean. Like that group is just the most knowledgeable. We got nostalgia. You got all that together. And with Michael Cole and Corey Graves, I think chemistry-wise, they're probably the best two. I mean, they're getting pretty good. They're getting what they're getting pretty good at like, everybody remembers like Cole and King too, what I mean?
Yeah.
For a while, you know what I mean? So I feel like they're, getting on that kind of level. So, if I'm making you pick one, then between the AEW squad and the SmackDown squad, who you going with, Primo?
Personally, only because I've lived with him way longer in my head through the years. It's going to be Cole and Graves.
Okay.
And that's, growing up, like I said earlier, Cole and Taz, and then Cole backstage, and then everything else Cole's done. And then I just think they're a good pairing. I love the other team, the AEW commentary as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I have memories of Shivani and WCW, but it's beyond that, that's where the, I guess, gap is for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to sit firmly on the fence. I'm going to say the SmackDown team is probably the best, but I would choose the AEW team just because I'm such a Tony Schiavone mark. that is the sole reason. He might be my favorite person in wrestling that I've never met. Like, it's Uncle Tony. You got to go with Schiavone.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going with AEW. I mean, the nostalgia just, roast me in, more than you take Shivani out of that, then we probably got to talk. But as of right now, I'm going to say it's AEW. But good debate, boys. Good stuff there, man. That's going to do it for the Dropkick discussion. Let's get rolling, Primo. It's time to go home already, man. Let's hear from Finland's finest, Mikko.
It's Mikko Mastro, the Finland's finest, and you're listening to the number one podcast, Sit Down Marks. Ja tässä mä sanon, teidän kaikkien kannattaa kuunnella, olet sitten Suomesta tai Yhdysvalloista, koska tätä kaikki tulevat kertomaan kadulta toiselle, kaupungista toiseen.
We'll remind you to follow at Sit Down Marks on all the social media, Sit Down Marks podcast on Instagram, and head on over to sitdownmarks.com if you're not already there right now. And subscribe. Volume 9, Dreamwave Prelude, available right now. You better get that one watched because we're about to drop another one coming up next week, the very last day of May coming up. You're going to get Volume 10 coming up of Dreamwave Prelude, so make sure you guys go and check that out at sitdownmarks.com. We'll be circling back there to that here shortly, but let's talk about the Indy 3 for this weekend. Dylan, you had a busy weekend. You got any shows you're going to this weekend, and what 3 should we check out on TV?
Oh, I am planning on sitting on my couch for the majority of the weekend. I'm going to try not to leave. Last weekend really took it out of me. But yeah, Indy 3, start 2 and 3, no particular order, both in Chicago, both on Friday. Freelance is back. I believe the show is live on IWTV. They normally are. It's called These Final Hours. It's a return of the Freelance Rumble. Also on Friday night, speaking of returns, AAW returns to the Bourbon Street. Back there after, Berwyn closed down. Big card there, first time back in Bourbon. I'm assuming if it's like the last several AAW shows, it won't be live, but it'll be up. Usually the week after they're up. But both of those are in Chicago area on Friday. And the number one show I'm looking at this weekend, I guess besides AEW, but keeping it indie-wise here, would be ETU on Saturday. This would be live on IWTV. The show is called Dead Set. The main event is Mike Santana defending their title against Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. Gabby Forza defending the women's title against Killer Kelly. Myron Reed and Ken Broadway on the card. Killionaires Club defending the tag titles against Above the Rest in a no DQ match. ETU always kills it. It'll be a fun show. That'll be on IWTV. And all 3 of those, plus a couple more, will be in my indie preview this week. Planning is for that to go up Wednesday evening-ish sometime. But check my socials at DHagerJ15, and you can find that whenever it drops there.
All right, Dreamwave All-Star Weekend. We're only about a month away.
1 month.
DWTIX.com, man. It's going to be a huge weekend. Uprising 8, After Dark. Eve of Destruction, 3 Dreamwave shows in 2 nights, man. It's going to be awesome. You got to get ready for this. You got to come on down. Let's talk about right now what's coming up on the Sit Down Marks podcast next week. Dropping a brand new DB's Territory Treasures. I'm going to be talking about a guy that's really close and dear to my heart. I tell a good story on this one about if you know anything about Magnum TA from that era, you know about everything that happened with him. So I got a really cool story about Magnum TA, about a place where I lived in Charlotte. So make sure you check that out. And then also, as we talked about earlier, another Dreamwave Prelude is going to be dropping at the end of May. And then, shoot, boys, it's already June, man. Like, good Lord, where's this year going already? But
flown on by.
I'm telling you, man. And then early June, man, we're bringing back Christian Rose. We're going to be talking 20 years of Christian Rose. So he's going to be coming back on the podcast. So, guys, make sure you look for that in June. I want to remind you, too, to go to Darkfire 3D on Etsy. That's Primo's Etsy store. He's on eBay as well. Any other platform?
What's the name?
We are on Etsy and eBay, and that is Darkfire 3D.
There you go. All right. I want to remind you, too, to go check out the Windy City Slam podcast. Speaking of Dreamwave All-Star Weekend, I went on there and talked to Mike Pankow, and I want to thank him for having me on there. And I went and just basically talked about Dreamwave All-Star Weekend, all the details, everything that's going on and happening, all the way down to the shuttle that we just added to that. So go check out Mike, man. He's been a supporter of independent wrestling for quite some time now. So go check out that podcast that I was on there just about a week ago. I want to remind you too now, we got merch for Dreamwave Prelude. We're going to have hats and T-shirts. If you're watching right now on YouTube, you can check it out. It's also been posted on all social media, man. Go check it out. We're running a heck of a bundle right now for $50. You can get a hat and a shirt shipped to you with free stickers. All you got to do is message us on social media. We take Venmo, PayPal. And also, absolutely, Dylan is going to be slinging these at the live shows coming up. Dreamwave All-Star Weekend. We're going to have these at the show, so make sure you come check those out. But come support the future of Dreamwave Wrestling. Come support Dreamwave Prelude. Make sure you get the threads that all the cool kids are wearing, right?
I'm going to yell insults at people like I'm Sydney Bacabella and see if they buy our merch.
Yeah.
Just going to take what I've learned from sitting in the merch room the past couple years.
Yeah. Insult them, until they buy your merch. All right, I'm going to get you out of here on this, boys. One last question. We talked about Nashville earlier. They're getting the Keck Pro Wrestling Academy from Gangrel and Rusev. And also they were just awarded the 2030 Super Bowl. They're building a brand new stadium for the Tennessee Titans, and it's going to be at the stadium. So
Nissan Stadium, I believe.
It's 2026, right? Yeah, and Super Bowl is going to be there in 2030.
2030.
Yeah. When's WrestleMania going to be there?
Maybe 2032.
That's probably fair.
Write that down.
A couple years after.
No.
First off, 2030 feels like it should be like 50 years from now, not like 4 years from now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I figure the Super Bowl go first, and they'll kind of judge that, see how that goes.
Yeah.
But if you just start counting it down, like Saudi's supposed to get next year, Indy is supposedly supposed to get one at some time.
Right.
That already puts you around 28. Super Bowls in 30. So yeah, at 32, Primo might be spot on there. We'll have to remember that.
Yeah. All right. Heard it here first, 2032.
I got a buddy that's moving an hour outside Nashville too, so maybe I have a place to crash.
Oh, that's like 4 for me. If they go to Nashville, I'm there.
Yeah.
They have enough hotels. They have enough it's central, pretty much centrally located. It's going to be, that'd be pretty sick. Are they building an outdoor stadium there? Or do you know if it's covered? I don't know. Nashville can be, borderline sometimes, but it's mountainy enough to get snow. But
Yeah.
It's still kind of that southern weather, you know what I mean? So, but stay tuned. We shall see. All right, boys. Well, that's going to do it for the flagship podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on YouTube and Facebook. And thank you guys for listening on those podcast platforms out there. See you guys next time on the Sit Down Mars podcast. Tune in next week for DB's Territory Treasures. We'll see you guys soon for Primo and Dylan. I'm the Dirty Bird. Keep spreading the good word of wrestling, people. We're the Sit Down Mars podcast. Take care.
Thank you.